They crisscross the Armageddon Prime continent, pushing 316 tons or more at a time.
Breaker, Alpha Theta. This is Yarrick. All available units respond.
Trouble.
Repeat.
This is Wise Ducker.
Step on it.
I'm telling all you humans to get out of my way.
Oh no!
Kit Zolt!
Lock and load. The roar of 29,000 horsepower engines. The drivers know these 13.5-meter vehicles like the backs of their hands. Time is running out.
We must deliver the Ferris Horrifica to Hive Death Mire.
Don't slow down.
Yous ain't faster than me, you zoggin' gits.
This is the Hellhound Swordbuster. Put that suicide demolisher through the gate so this convoy can keep rolling. Iota Delta, Flexilis Anas. What is your current location? Tempestora. Well, they should know what to do with the greenskins out there.
Welcome to Days of Lore.
Do you want to be a part of Days of Lore? If you have a Warhammer 40k miniature that you want to show off to other people, send it to us through email, Instagram, or Discord, and we will use your minis in our video uploads. We want our listeners and viewers to be able to see what we're discussing, so if you want to help out or be featured as our mini of the week, send us pictures of your painted figures.
Welcome to part 2 of our multi-part series on the Fourth War for Armageddon. Today we will be talking about the race to Hive Death Mire as Yarrick and the defenders of Armageddon desperately try to get a message out for reinforcements. Welcome back everybody to Days of Lore. I am Ian, joined by Asher and Alex as always.
How's it going?
Hello.
And guys, how are we doing? So far Armageddon's been hit. Rest in peace, General Locke.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't think I'm over him yet. I'm still grieving.
He was the best boy, and he will be remembered for like the next 3 seconds.
Yeah, if anything on Armageddon is true, it's that you have to keep moving on. Well, when we last left off, Yarrick has returned. He has come to Hive Volcanus. We have killed General Locke. Marshal Gorman of the Death Corps of Krieg has been put in charge of all of the forces on Armageddon. And Yarrick has let everyone know that he holds the Ferris Horrifica, that servo skull that he got from the Black Templars, and he was about to send a message for help, but the astropathic relay at Hive Volcanus had been dismantled, and everyone inside was killed. We are pretty sure it was by Boss Snickrot of Armageddon infamy. With that astropathic relay dismantled at Hive Volcanus, the hope of reinforcements was slowly dwindling away. Luckily for Armageddon, though, we've talked about this on our Welcome to Armageddon episode, Armageddon has 4 astropathic relays, and that's pretty uncommon. The closest one to Hive Volcanus was Hive Death Mire. There are 2 others, at Hive's Hell's Reach and Infernus, but those are both on the other side of the equatorial jungle. Commissar Yarrick, Commissar Graves, Dogmata Superior in Transia Frey, and the newly appointed Supreme Commander Marshal Gorman set about planning a new way to get Yarrick and the Ferris Horrifica to Hive Death Mire. The biggest thing was they knew they needed a distraction. It was decided that Commissar Graves, pretty much being the boldest among them all, would lead an armored spearhead back to the Mannheim Gap to catch Wazdaka and distract him for enough time for Yarrick and a much faster armored convoy to race their way to Hive Death Mire. Marshal Gorman and Dogmata Superior Frey decided to go with Commissar Graves and bolster her forces along with some of the survivors of the Mannheim Gap and the Liberation Line from different regiments of Cadians and Kriegers, Simtexians, and Mordians. Which, I love that part of the story because, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, I survived the Mannheim Gap, I survived the Liberation Line, these orcs were teleporting all over the place, I'm finally going to get to retreat and go back to the safety of a hive city and I'll be protected. And as I'm walking through the gates, Commissar Graves is like, all right, boys, turn around. We're charging back into the orcs.
That's Simpsons meme where he walks in and he takes his hat off and sets it and then turns right back around and picks it back up and goes back outside.
I like to think that Graves is like sitting in a big old recliner with like a beer. Go defend the Manheim Gap again.
Now, I will note, Graves did not decide to sit in her recliner, which she could have done. She'd made the decision to lead from the front lines, simply because she couldn't trust anybody to lead the soldiers. I wonder why she couldn't trust anybody to lead those soldiers forward. Maybe it's because she killed all of the commanders.
You know, that'll do it.
Me killing everybody is like, man, I got to do everything around here.
Bang, bang,
All these
bang.
lazy people.
Wake up! It's a guy with no head.
Yeah.
Alex, will you take us through Graves's part of the plan?
With a loud creak, the doors of Hive Volcanus opened up and spewed forth a battalion of tanks, rarely seen even on a war world like Armageddon. Guns on top of the walls of Hive Volcanus, manned by the Krieg 551st Siege Regiment, opened the battle with a barrage of artillery fire in the Orc positions. As Graves screamed orders from atop Vigilance, tanks and troop transports followed alongside as Marshal Gorman's Death Riders charged forward, lances down. As the fighting force retook trenches outside of Volcanus, heavy weapons teams, planetary militia, and fresh conscripts disgorged from their transports and remanned the trenches. The Orcs, seeing all this new destruction and a new fun scene to be had, charged forwards and met Graves head on. One truck even got close enough to Graves that 3 Orc boys jumped onto Vigilance, killed her Vox operator before they were cut down by her and the rest of the right hand. After an intense battle, the Orcs broke and made their way back to the Manheim Gap. The Sisters of Battle, Kriegsmen, penal troops, and other infantrymen filled in the gaps of the trenches and made ready for an Orc counterattack. Under the watchful eyes of Dogmata Superior Frey and her Throne of Blame, sentinels marched their way forward, scanning for Orc movement and ready to relay the messages of the next oncoming attack.
And I love just that little detail of these are armored sentinels because everything is enclosed. And they're marching forward into the ash wastes, looking for more orcs, knowing that these sentinels are going to die. Like, we know that these sentinels are going to die. But they're like, hey, I got to get word out. I need to relay a message back when the orcs come back.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the whole distraction. It's like we are not the goal. Our job is to go keep these guys busy.
Yeah.
You know, and we're probably going to die. So there's not much we can do about that, but we're going to go do our job.
It's very, very somber. So, Alex, did a counterattack ever come?
They wouldn't have to wait long, as Wazdaka's Orcs launched flares up into the sky, alerting him of this new fight. Wazdaka turned on Big Reva, had Fix-It top him off with some squig oil, and raced his way towards Commissar Graves. The Orcs that he ran into, who were retreating, were either run over or turned around to follow their war boss. He met with some light resistance from some light armor sentinels, Cadian recon squads, and Steel legionnaires looking to ambush him. The Orcs barely stopped to fight them and shot their way past these Imperial forces. They had a bigger prize to be had. In mere minutes, Wazdak and his boys were on Commissar Graves and Marshal Gorman's forces. They were met with artillery fire, bombardments from Lehman Russ battle tanks, and charges from Krieg Death Riders and Attilan Rough Riders. The Orcs just kept coming, though. No matter how many blew up, 3 more charged past the smoldering wreckage of war bikes and the scorched hides of squigs. When the first wave of Orcs rode over the battlements of the Imperial defenders, they were met with even more fire from Commissar Graves, the Sisters of Battle, and fields of fire set up by the Death Corps and Steel Legion Infantry, a team-up of the gas masks.
Yeah!
What a cool crossover.
Yeah! Me, SpongeBob dancing in my chair. Yeah!
This is already kind of like, you know, it died down once they got back into the Hive City, and then they run out to try to stir up the Hornet's Nest, and it's already gotten crazy. And Wazdaka isn't really like getting met by a wall. He's just kind of driving through everything, going straight into where the entire force is. So it's kind of taking this off of the plan, and they're going to kind of have to wing it. Is what I'm picking up here.
Well, why would you turn when you can just go straight, and that gets you to your point faster?
Yeah, and you don't need to slow down if you have a big red button that just teleports you through solid objects.
All right. Orc trucks crashed into each other and tumbled over as infantry spewed forth and boys got stuck in amongst the Imperials. Commissar Graves leapt out of vigilance and into a trench to meet the enemy on foot. For every guardsman that died, 10 orcs were killed, but the oncoming green wave was endless. Fighting side by side and trench by trench, the Imperial soldiers fought as hard as they could, hanging on to every inch leading to Hive Volcanus. Sisters of Battle from the Order of Our Martyred Lady poured bolt gun fire into the oncoming boys. However, new threats came from all sides. Burnaboys from the orcs came in and doused the Imperial defenders in flames. Those who clawed their way out of the trenches were cut down by boys or trampled by squig cavalry. In one case, Marshal Gorman barely survived an assassination attempt from commandos who had made their way from the Volcanus Mountains. Graves looked round and saw that the situation was dire and that they couldn't hold out for much longer. She ordered everyone to make a fighting retreat back to Hive Volcanus. Dogmata, Superior Frey, said that she and her sisters would cover the retreat, but Marshal Gorman said that he would stay with his soldiers and fight to the last alongside the rest of the Death Corps. Graves boarded Vigilance and made her way back to Volcanus as the last part of her orders carried out a creeping bombardment to cover her retreat. A creeping bombardment of artillery that did not discriminate between Orc or Imperial. By the time she and her forces made it back to Hive Volcanus, only an eighth of what she left with ever saw the Hive city again. However, the distraction was bought. Her part of the plan had been carried out. Commissar Yarrick had his opening to leave Volcanus and make his way to Hive Death Mire. I will say, that's pretty hypocritical when she just killed the other person who also retreated.
I was just about to say, so it's okay if she retreats, but it's not okay if anyone else retreats for any other reason.
Because she's special.
It's like every paragraph that I read about Commissar Graves, it's like, man, I want to buy your model. I hate you so much.
It's Commissar Graves and the like little kid with the like propeller hat. I love this. It's like every other all the guardsmen
Burning skulls
She's
behind
just casually
her.
the worst person in existence.
I hate you.
I hate you and I hope you die.
And then Commissar Graves, not Graves,
Marshal Gorman?
Gorman, he like steps up and is like, "Hey, yeah, we'll handle this."
Yeah.
And
I know
yeah,
I've been
that's-
supreme commander of all of Armageddon for the past 30 minutes, but I think it's time to die right now.
he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this whole thing. This is a lot of people. Let me just, I'll hang out here with these guys." Oh, creeping bombardment.
It's time to shower, boys. Ah!
But I guess that just kind of goes back to that somber, like, we have a job to do. And I'm not sure if they exited the Hive City with the mindset of we're coming back, in the sense of like, oh, Commissar Graves is leading this. She just shot the last guy because he retreated. We're not going anywhere. We're going to go out here to die.
Yeah.
And so
And they
then
turn
presented
around
with a
and Graves
chance.
is like
Yeah.
booking it back to
yeah. And she's like, all right, let's go. All right, blow up everything past this line. And
Run for your life, Smokey. I knew you were going to do that.
yeah, it's just really very, very interesting dynamic.
Well, okay, so that's the first part of the plan. The distraction has been bought. Wazdaka is distracted. Now it's time for phase 2. Yarrick's departure from Hive Volcanus. While all of that was going on, as Graves distracted Wazdaka and kept him busy, Yarrick and his convoy made their way to Hive Death Mire. In this convoy, it included Hippogriff armored fighting vehicles, Centaur rapid strike vehicles, Hellhounds, Bane Wolves, squadrons of Leman Russ battle tanks, Chimeras, Tauroxes, Rogel Dorns, Wyverns, Adeptus Mechanicus fuel carriers, and even Knights of Houses Terran and House Hawkshroud. Valkyries and vultures flew overhead, but there was no mistaking the flagship of the convoy. Clad in onyx black steel and trundling forward, festooned with heavy firepower, was none other than the Bane blade of the hero of Hades' Hive, The Fortress of Arrogance is back. Yarrick stood proudly on top of his Bane blade and surged his forces forward, flanked by 2 Warhound Titans of the Legio Metallica, the Lupex Destructor and the Hound of Hades.
This is such a cool, convoy that they've built up, and I love that leading it is just a Baneblade with a rebuilt title that they had to put back together from the other war of Armageddon.
Don't check the car.
Is this thing. Is this like a Ship of Theseus type situation?
Is it still the Fortress of Arrogance? This is a lot of vehicles, though. This is a hefty list of, if it exists, it's in this convoy.
Yeah, I love that they included wyverns.
Yeah, that's something I've heard kind of. Is that the is that the artillery one?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we haven't mentioned is that Hive Volcanus is kind of surrounded by orcs that have just kind of been, piddling around. There are some Death Skull speed freaks, led by the speed boss Grisnag, who we met in the orc episode. He is the Death Skull. He likes looting. He paints all of his stuff blue. So he's been around the Sainted Gate of Hive Volcanus, looting. He and his trucks were riding around Hive Volcanus, taking their fair share of loot, tormenting the few Kriegsmen who were holding out outside the city walls. But when they saw the doors open and Imperial forces started barreling towards them, Grisnag obviously started to shout out orders towards all of his blue-painted trucks, when all of a sudden, things got very bright and very hot, as the Hound of Hades, Warhound Titan, erased Grisnag from the surface of Armageddon.
It's not even just like they shot at him, it's just like he's gone.
Yep. Just one little blah.
I can just imagine that horn sound from the animations.
Yeah.
Oh, I imagine it's like that scene from the Smash Brothers where the characters get just that beam of light just obliterates them.
So, with Grisnag out of the way, and this entire column tearing through the orcs like a hot knife through butter, the orcs broke almost immediately. And the few Krieg survivors outside the city throw up the signs of the Aquila and began readying their defenses for what was eventually going to come, another orc counterattack. And many, many long minutes later, the end of Yarrick's column left the Sainted Gate, and the walls of Volcanus closed. The defenders of Hive Volcanus looked over the walls and saw Yarrick making his way towards Hive Death Mire, but they also saw plumes of smoke from the engines of orc vehicles making their way to intercept. The race to Hive Death Mire has begun, Asher.
Here we go. I was going to ask, so I love that they're just let's throw up some gang signs, guys. This is awesome. Now, is this is where you take your hands and you align your thumbs, right? And you just hold it up. Is that what the signs of the Aquila?
Yes. And sometimes they will cross their thumbs. I prefer to keep my right hand fully in front of my left hand and just point my thumbs away from each other, but my right thumb is still in front of my left thumb.
Oh, that's a really cool symbol. I think I've seen it before, but it's just been a while since I've had it mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I did want to ask was, we've got a lot of vehicles here, and a lot of these vehicles are kind of faster moving vehicles, and I think that was the point of the convoy in the first place, was to get it to Deathmire quickly.
Yes.
In every context I've seen Titans in, they move rather slowly, and I know that they take big steps. Are they just able to keep up, or is it they've got the range because of their size and their weapons, that their reach can just keep them in range the whole time, or are they actually able to keep up with...
Well, Warhound Titans are actually... They're really fast.
Oh, wait. I think I know. Hold on. This is not the big one with the churches. This is the...
No, these are the dog. These are the dog ones.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So they'll jog. This isn't the...
They're the skirmisher
big step.
class.
Okay. That makes more sense. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. In my head, for whatever reason, I was imagining just the massive class, and it's just taking slow steps while But no, yeah, these with the way their legs are orientated, yeah, okay. That answers that question. Thank you.
As Wazdaka ran down the retreating Imperials on their way to Hive Volcanus, a scrapjet overhead caught his attention as it roared towards where Yarrick was. Wazdaka saw that he had been outsmarted, and, in a rage, turned his speedwa to intercept Yarrick, knowing that he had to be on his way to Hive Death Mire. And the funny thing that I want to mention here, Wazdaka knows that Yarrick is on his way to Hive Death Mire. He doesn't know or care why. He just knows that Yarrick is on his way somewhere, and he needs to beat him there. He's not trying to kill Yarrick, he's just trying to beat him to Hive Death Mire.
He just wants to go fast.
Yeah, he just wants to go fast.
Okay.
And it was pretty easy to chase after Yarrick as his massive convoy threw pillars of smoke into the air miles high. The orcs caught up and the Cult of Speed went wild around the convoy. And the road itself was treacherous too. A knight paladin named Bane of Heresy misstepped into sinking ash and crashed down into the surface of Armageddon. And the convoy just had to keep rolling. When the orcs caught up to the column and Deathcoptas unleashed bombs onto the convoy, knights fell, chimeras and centaurs swerved off the road, Leman Russes were flipped over by explosions, Tauroxes were engulfed in flames, and guardsmen poured fire out of the tops of transports as hippogriffs weaved in and out of the column, using their maneuverability and speed to their advantage to pick off warbikers. One by one, the orc warbikes fell. However, just as the Imperials thought they were on the winning foot, an entire fleet of orc fighters and bombers swept in from the direction of Hive Tempestora, bearing the glyphs of Warlord Glitztooth. Do you remember that guy?
He sounds familiar.
He's the orc war boss who's in charge of Hive Tempestora.
This is on the test.
Yeah, it's on the test, Asher. Keep up.
Write that down.
Luckily, Valkyries and vultures swooped in to intercept the orc planes, and a massive dogfight ensued. Hydra tanks added flak fire from below, and orc scrapjets were eviscerated. The combined efforts of the armored column and the Navis Imperialis were enough to drive back the orc planes and speed freaks. However, this was just the first leg of the journey, and Yarrick knew many more good men and women needed to die to get him to Hive Death Mire. In even worse news, over the Vox channel, Valkyrie gunship Hornet 05 reported a Category 6 ash storm was on a crash course for Yarrick's column. What made matters even worse was that as Yarrick looked to his right and saw the storm approaching, he looked ahead and saw an orc fortification built right on the highway with huge bunkers and towers and even stompas inside. Within a few crucial moments, he and his commanders knew what they had to do. Charge. Straight forward, hoping that the storm would disorient the orcs enough for Yarrick and his men to win the moment and have the storm create a roadblock to keep Wazdaka away. Their air cover broke off, not wanting to succumb to the storm, and all vehicles sealed their entrances. Yarrick closed the hatch above him on the Fortress of Arrogance, and the column accelerated to a full charge.
They're really just gunning it here.
Absolute, refueling as you go with these Adeptus Mechanicus tankers. There's no stopping.
It's like Death Mire down and bound, loaded up with truck.
How long have they been at this right now? Only
about.
This isn't just a few minutes. This is taking a long time.
Yeah, I would say that they've been driving for about 2 hours at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, when it started out, they had that initial encounter with the orcs outside of Volcanus. And then, once they kind of clear that out, they might have some stragglers of orcs as they're going, but it kind of calms down. And what I imagine is, the opening to Revenge of the Sith, where, Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the Starfighters, and they're just kind of cruising along. And then, Yarrick, the Titan, falls over into that ash pile and, destroys the road, and everyone starts swerving, and that's the moment when the two fighters swerve down, and there's just a massive battle that starts happening, and just the bottom falls out.
Yeah, because I imagine the dog fight just above the air and the wyverns having to shoot above as everybody is driving at full speed. That was like maybe 20 minutes of that dogfight.
Right.
There's a map in here, right? They're going from Volcanus to Death Mire?
Yes. So, yeah, that's a good question. I think this trip in total is going to take about 5.5 hours. It's a long distance. Death Mire is pretty close to Volcanus, but think that's almost 250 miles of fighting. You have to fight your entire way there. So that 5.5 hours is a lifetime.
This ain't no trip to the grocery store.
Well, then also, like I said, it is 5.5 hours of just fighting. That's just like the minimum time in terms of travel. As much as they, want to be going full speed the entire way, they're probably going to have to slow down or make a slight detour or to some extent alter their speed enough that it's going to take more time, especially with the fighting.
And with this storm coming in, it's definitely going to slow them down. And the storm hits them like a ton of bricks. Imagine like of dust storm fame from the Great Depression, where you have 2-mile-high dirt walls engulfing you. So Yarrick and his men are having to look through night vision sensors, and they see this orcoid fort open its gates, and the orcs don't care about the storm. They spew forth battle wagons and trucks and bikers and boys, and the Imperial column, which still includes Titans and Knights, riddle them with bullets. My favorite part of this story is the poor Cadians, who are in their Centaur recon vehicles, which are open top.
Oh.
Yes. They've tried their best to close the hatches on the sides of like the firing ports, but they've just had to stretch tarps over the top and hold them in place to try to keep the storm and sand from getting in.
It's like an old convertible when it's raining really hard.
Yeah.
You're just trying to keep it shut.
But for my boys, the more advanced chimeras and thoraxes of the Steel Legion, they pressurize their holes. So they've got all that filtered oxygen inside, saving them from the external forces of Armageddon. And when they look outside those viewports, they see orcs being lifted up by this tidal wave of ash and sand. They didn't have much time to laugh as war bikes and buggies and even light Imperial tanks were lifted up by the storm and thrown back down into the earth in massive fireballs.
It's like Twister.
Yeah, this is awful. The few Valkyries that were too slow to evade the storm crashed down into Armageddon. Twisters, taller than Warlord Titans, ransacked Yarrick's column. Everyone had to wait to fire until the enemy was right at point-blank range, because firing too soon meant that the bullets were swept up by the wind. Imperial tanks, not seeing where they were going, slammed into the side of the Orc fortress. The Knights of House Hawkshroud and Terran had to angle their shields and turn their gyroscopes so that the Knights leaned into the wind.
Oh, whoa.
This is tipping over Knights. And one Knight fell as green lightning shuddered through it. And it's not just an Orc weird boy, it's just all of this static churned up by this massive storm and fueled by all of this Orc energy. Right when they get into the fort, they start breaking through the gates. The Warhound Titan Lupex Destructor was hit quickly by 3 shots from the def cannons of an Orc Stompa. The Void Shields collapsed and an armor-penetrating shell plunged right into the head of the Titan before exploding, killing its princeps Ikoto and his Moderati immediately. The Hound of Hades roared, and alongside with Leman Russes and Rogaldorn battle tanks, plunged revenge fire into the Stompa. Soon, another Stompa sliced into and fell upon 3 knights from House Terran, killing them. But Yarrick's column kept charging forward, with Cadians trying to lie flat inside their centaurs, and tanks blowing open the other doors from the opposite side of the fort. The surviving knights and the Hound of Hades followed in a rearguard action, And 20 minutes later, the storm passed, and the column looked around to see how much Yarrick's move had cost. Every vehicle was damaged. The infantry casualties were abysmal, inside the unsealed troop transports especially. Almost all of the Adeptus Mechanicus support vehicles were destroyed. Less than half of the column that left High Volcanus remained. However, Death Mire was in sight.
That's insane. Just the fighting on its own is bad enough, but then like going back to just our introduction and vacation land Armageddon, just how terrifying just the area on the planet of Armageddon is.
It's horrible.
As Yarrick got closer to the Hive, ignoring many pleas for help from survivors along the way, Yarrick could see banners waving proudly of the Aquila in Hive Death Mire. Yarrick's convoy began broadcasting a looping message that he had returned. He was alive. Nothing could kill him, and nothing could defeat Armageddon. Conscripts fought harder, battling against hulking Goths as they laid down their lives for Yarrick's convoy. He crossed the Phlegethon River and made his way to where it met up with the River Insane. A highway tunnel leading to Hive Death Mire was all he needed to get to. All of a sudden, he got a message from a survivor of one of the Purgation Corps, Inquisitor Inigo Croyle. He told Yarrick that he was just on the other side of the tunnel with some reinforcements to help Yarrick get to his destination. However, just as that message came in, another rang through that said that Wazdaka himself was making his way to the same tunnel. Wazdaka had crossed the ash waste, and nothing the Imperials threw at him could slow him down. Not even a 300-foot wide wall armed to the teeth with Imperial defenders. With a quick flick of a switch and a punch of a big red button, Wazdaka and his orcs teleported on top of the wall and killed the defenders before they could even realize that they were confused. Yarrick gritted his teeth. He was just a mile away from Hive Death Mire, and Wazdaka had beat him to the tunnel. He gave the order to keep charging. Wazdaka, just like Tony Hawk, like Asher mentioned 2 episodes ago, sped back down the wall and tumbled his way back to Yarrick. Speedsters behind him, green energy flaring as they blinked into existence on the highway ahead of Yarrick's convoy. Nobody slowed down. Yarrick's convoy shot out the last of their ammunition and slammed into the orcs with a crash of metal, the bouncing of tires, and the thudding of bodies. At breakneck speed, the Hound of Hades strode forth in front of the Fortress of Arrogance and laid down covering fire.
I love that, Wazdaka is like running around and like teleporting and killing a bunch of guys, but he's essentially just like a golden retriever right now. He has no context of the situation of what is happening.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, we're racing right now. We're running around and, we're bouncing off walls, doing tricks and flips, and he's just having a good time.
Yeah.
So Wazdaka sees a Titan and knows that he has to add it to his collection. He bobbed and weaved his way through the hail of bullets that were killing all the war bikers around him. But he launched his grab-a-draga towards the Titan's right foot, snagged it, and had a full-blown Akira slide as he turned his bike and made another pass. The Titan raised its foot, but its damaged hydraulics hitched, and Wazdaka poured fire into its joints with his Psycho Gatler. The Warhound tried to turn around, but Wazdaka hit it with the same move using his grab-a-draga to slow his bike and move back and forth underneath the Titan. However, Big Reva did not stop this time. The bike tumbled out from underneath him, and Wazdaka slid across the Ferrocrete. After a moment, Wazdaka got to his feet, dusted himself off, and pulled Fix-It de Grot out of the wreckage. As they both looked up, the Warhound Titan listed and crashed to the ground. Dust engulfed Wazdaka's world, and shrapnel filled the air. Wazdaka grinned as metal rained around him.
He's still just having the time of his life.
Oh yeah, he's having such a good time.
And just
he doesn't care. Yarrick, who's that? Look at this Titan over here.
And I love this next thing that Alex is about to read. It's just this moment of like serenity that he has.
So behind him, he saw that some human tanks were making their way into the tunnel, and he just shrugged, because he had won the race. He got to the tunnel first, and he knew that the war boss, known as Skullcrumpa, was already besieging Hive Death Mire. So, happily, he decided to get back on Big Reva and continue racing his way across the plains of Armageddon. Plus, he needed to get some revenge on those humans Yarrick left behind to slow him down.
He really just run off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
He won the race and then just left.
Just crossing his arms. I did it, and then just takes off.
Yeah, it's really, this makes me think of like the end of the Fry Cook games when SpongeBob and Patrick are walking out of the arena and everybody is screaming, but they've just got their arms around each other. That's Wazdaka and Fix-It, and they're just like, come on, buddy, let's go. We did it. Meanwhile, in space, Gazgul sat in the control room of the Kill Rekka, looking down at all the carnage that was being wrought upon the surface of Armageddon. He was itching to get down there, but he knew that he had to stay in order to keep his boys in line. He had a nice strategium going, full with Goth bosses issuing orders and blood axes giving out strategic ideas with their big thinking. But something caught Gazgul's attention. He slowly turned to a blood axe to his right, and he said, "Say that again." Something itched at his brain. The orc mumbled something about a giant black tank. Gazgul immediately looked at the telescopic feed and saw, for his own eyes, the Fortress of Arrogance, the symbol of Commissar Yarrick entering the tunnel to Hive Death Mire. He thought for a second of what the old man could be doing, making his way to Hive Death Mire. He felt joy that his old foe had returned. Had the gods really been so kind for this gift? And then he remembered that he had Snickrot kill all of those Hive Volcanus astropaths. Ah, there it was. Yarrick was trying to send for help, and Gazgul had a decision to make. Should he kill Yarrick for the third time? Let him bring the Space Marines? It was a tough decision, because more Space Marines is obviously more fun. But the last time they showed up on Armageddon, they ruined the fun. Plus, he had already tried to kill Yarrick twice before, and he just kept getting back up. So what to do? Gazgul did decide that it was too soon to have the Space Marines join the fight, so he grabbed the controls of the custom Super Blaster fixed to the Kill Rekka and aimed it for the end of the tunnel, waiting for Yarrick to reappear.
Is he just about to, like, Death Star the planet?
AC-130 above!
Hold on, I got a kill streak going.
All right, my blood pressure is spiked. Keep going.
All right. Da-da-da-da-da. Back on the surface of Armageddon. At the other end of the tunnel, Inquisitor Croyle and the 18th Cyan Jackals were holding down the fort against Goths and Beast Snaggers. He was having a blast, shooting his Jindari Toxcycler at incoming bosses. "Ha! Another bullseye!" he said, as a guardsman came up to him and said that a convoy was making their way out of the tunnel. He pridefully looked on as the glory of the Fortress of Arrogance came into view, and his heart swelled with confidence that the day might just be won. And then everything started to glow green. Croyle, his men, and even the orcs around them looked up in abject horror as a giant green blast of energy came down and obliterated the Fortress of Arrogance from orbit.
Don't. They were right there. They are pulling into the driveway.
Yep.
He literally. This is giving me a headache. Hold on. Okay. Do not do this to me.
Croyle knew what had to be done. He had to get to the wreckage and secure the Ferris Horrifica, if it was even still operational. That was until the smoke cleared, and a few chimeras made their way towards him, and the hatch opened up from the top of the lead one, and an unmistakable sight greeted him. The cap of a commissar. Yarrick looked out of the top of the chimera and said, "Well met, Croyle."
Are you kidding me?
It would be really funny if you said it was Commissar Graves.
He wasn't even in the Fortress of Arrogance. What?
I don't know at what point he switched over.
There's
somewhere in the tunnel.
I was like, there's no way that they're gonna blow him up again. He can't keep coming back from the dead. So it's like, if the next time he dies, he's just going to die.
One thing that is cool is it's telling this story from Croyle's point of view at this point, and he can see the ghost of a smile on Yarrick's face because he knows that his decoy fooled Gazgul. And now it was just a few more miles to the astropathic relay. We're almost there.
Well, it fooled me. Now I'm kind of upset because I thought he was about to die again.
It's time to talk about the last few miles getting to the relay.
Commissar Yarrick and Inquisitor Croyle consolidate their forces and attack the Goth orcs of Wa Skullcrumpa, who have besieged Death Mire. The initial lines of orcs flee, seeing old Baelai himself charging towards them. They also fall under the lasguns and blades of determined Hive Death Mire militia. The convoy weaved its way in and out of districts between fallen hab blocks and entrenched Cadian lines, battling ferociously against orcs. Just 3 miles away from the command spire, Yarrick's forces attempted to go across an industrial canyon, but 2 of the bridges had been destroyed, and he was trapped. Yarrick's forces desperately fought their way to the 8th bridge across the gorge, but it cost the convoy dearly, as only 3 armored vehicles and 2 squads of Tempestus Scions remained. Yarrick's force, just a mile away from the command spire, came upon the Calgar Tower, and they knew that it would provide a direct route to the central spires. But just as they made their way, the infamous Red Skull Commandos, Boss Snickrot's own, beset Yarrick and Inquisitor Croyle, who were both injured in the fight. The last of the Tempested Scions and the armored vehicles sacrificed themselves in a rear guard action.
They can't catch a break. It's just like every step of the way.
We are out of armored vehicles. Even light vehicles. We're out. Everybody's on foot now. The chimeras emptied out, and Yarrick, Croyle, and about 60 militia soldiers limped their way up the Calgar Tower. Just 2 levels below their destination, an Orklander crashed into the platform above, and Orc Goths spilt out of the wreckage, charging towards Yarrick's men. Inquisitor Croyle quickly shot a weird boy, and was even able to take out a Death Dread with a single shot through its vision slit. But despite setting up firing lines, the charging orcs closed in on the Imperials. Yarrick gave the order to charge, and a massive melee ensued in the scaffolding of this tower as bodies were flung off the railings miles down into the chasm of the city below. Inquisitor Croyle did his best to shoot and pick off orcs as they went along, and Yarrick ripped the head off the Goth war boss with his power claw. The rest of the orcs, seeing how determined and zealous the militia were, and with their war boss slain, ran away as best as they could before they were slaughtered. They had finally made it to the command spire. What started as a massive convoy that eventually combined with Inquisitor Croyle's forces, 2 Warhound Titans, Rogel Dorns, Leman Russes, Chimeras, Hellhounds, Wyverns, aerial ships of the Navis Imperialis, Tempestus Scions, Steel Legion, Cadians, Krieg, and now it had all been whittled down to just Yarrick, Croyle, and 15 militia soldiers of the Steel Legion.
That's insane. So much like loss and then sacrifice just to get this to work. It goes back to, what the distraction was. It's like, this is our only job. We're not expecting to get back from this. This is what we have to do to make the difference.
And I do like that they mention that all 15 of these soldiers will be written down in the annals of Armageddon's history of heroes. But not now. They enter into the command strategium, and chaos is all around them as red flashes and sirens wailed with weary officers and Vox operators around the command center. Yarrick knew that he had his work cut out for him as a commander, but he quickly made his way to the astropathic sanctum to deliver the Ferris Horrifica, giving it to the astropaths.
Okay, well, we're there. We've lost a lot. But we've made it.
We have lost so much.
The astropaths gathered around the Ferris Horrifica and pooled their strengths together to send out a call for help. The amplification of the Ferris Horrifica almost immediately killed all the astropaths in the command spire. Every astropath and weird boy in the Armageddon system cried out in shock and wept tears of blood and flame as the distress call broke through the void.
Oh my god.
Yarrick had... Yeah. This was a one-time use, by the way.
That's not planet, that's the system.
That's like a scream. Like that's big.
It's like the bag of winds from the Odyssey and famously SpongeBob. But it's like, here's a mini Astronomicon. Boop!
Yarrick had done it. He had delivered the Ferris Horrifica, but at a massive cost. Hive Volcanus was still under siege. The Manhai Gap was being run through by the orcs. The equatorial jungle burned as the last remnants of the Purgation Corps fought for their lives. He heard of...
That one is cores, plural.
Oh my god.
It has an S on it.
The other one did, and you said it was core.
You just gotta know. When you know, you know.
Fucking goddamn it. Read that again. Hive Volcanus was still under siege. The Mannheim Gap was being run through by the orcs. The equatorial jungle burned as the last remnants of the Purgation Corps fought for their lives. What little he heard of Armageddon Secundus was dire, and Gazgul was ready to make planetfall at any moment. More and more orcs were making their way to the planet and were still being delivered by the Mega Tele Shaka system. When the distress call finally broke through the void, Armageddon's Subsector Command issued the proclamation that they had always dreaded. Armageddon has fallen.
All right, Asher, so that was the race to Hive Death Mire. The message has been delivered. What do you think?
We've talked about there's a lot of loss and sacrifice happening. And now, granted, it's a lot of deaths in just getting this done, but there's a lot more to save in the action that's doing this. So while all this loss is bad, it's almost going to be worth it in the end, as long as this message can get through, in which they made it to Deathmire, and they sent the message that killed all the astropaths in the room and like gave everyone a super bad headache in the greater tri-state area. And like
it's really funny because like, wow, they got it out, guys, they're gonna be saved, and then it's like jump cut. What happens next?
It's definitely like came at a cost, a very heavy toll, but hopefully they can get a respect. Like, it's made it out, you know, and the Subsector Command is like, okay, we've basically lost, like, we are no longer in control of Armageddon. It's just like lost to battle. We've got to work to get it back now rather than keep it out of the hands of the orcs.
We do kind of get a little epilogue here. We have finished our episode of the death race that was the path from Volcanus to Deathmire. And now here's our epilogue. Yarrick waited in the command strategium of Hive Death Mire for a response. He waited days. He waited weeks. And no response. Every day the situation got worse. Orcs were closing in on Deathmire, drawn in by the violence Yarrick had brought on his way there. Hive Infernus, the planetary seat of Armageddon, was besieged. Hades and Theratis were destroyed. Tempestora was still in the hands of the orcs. The waters of Hive Hell's Reach rose with the broken sea walls. Hive Volcanus held out, but the best predictions said that it would fall within weeks. Then, a report came about Hive Acheron. It had fallen. A massive asteroid was hurled towards the Hive. just like at Hades' Hive in the Third War for Armageddon. The defenders of Acheron poured everything they could into the asteroid as it crashed down, but all that did was activate Gazgul's trap. As the asteroid broke apart from the firepower, it scattered rocks filled with orc boys all across the Hive city. And then, the horrible reports came in of teleportation flares in the Hive command spire, and Gazgul himself appeared and slaughtered the command staff. Gazgul had taken control of Acheron and made it his base on Armageddon, despite Yarrick goading him with Vox messages to attack him in person. Hearing these reports, Yarrick was ready to fall in defeat. That was until lights came up on the hololith projectors, and the unmistakable sight of drop pods entered in his vision. Hope returned. A slim chance of victory was seen. Armageddon might yet live. As he looked in awe as the drop pods landed to deliver salvation upon Armageddon, a single word came over the Vox channels. Imperator.
It's just like it keeps getting darker and keeps getting darker, and then there's just like this faint light at the end of the tunnel.
It's always Space Marines.
The Emperor's angels.
Space Marines.
I do like, okay, I will say the trailer for like Space Marine 2, where it's like the guardsman and he like looks up and just goes, his angels, is like such a good like representation of what seeing a Space Marine is like.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like every time you see them, you're like, oh my god, this is so amazing. But also part of you is like, I need to scream in terror and run away right now.
Also, if I'm seeing these guys, we're screwed.
Yeah. I gotta get out of here. Too late.
Yeah. There's only one reason they'll be here, and it's not good.
Oh my god, it's his angels. Oh my god, it's his angels.
So this was a really interesting episode. We've basically have these Armageddon forces with their backs up against a wall who've got to figure out what in the world they're going to do. And Yarrick is like, oh, I have a radio. And we just got to get it to a place we can send it out. So, like I said, with just massive casualties, sacrifices, and losses, just pushing through all of that to get the message out, losing all of those forces, but then ultimately, drop pods of Space Marines dropping down to help usher in just salvation, or just like I said, hope to bring it back to the planet instead of just being devoured by orcs.
I do like how the kind of realism to like this isn't a situation where they call for aid and like the Space Marines were like immediately there to be like, we're here, guys. It's like, yeah, no, it took weeks. Like they're not just gonna immediately turn around and be like, we gotta help Armageddon. Like it took a few weeks before they could like get there.
And they could have died before they got there.
Yeah. That was another thing too. I was thinking about it. It's like Yarrick has to sit there and wait. And so like as he's waiting, all of everything that's just transpired, on this 10-4 rubber duck road trip, across the plains of Armageddon, all this loss is just like slowly like reflecting and bouncing around in his head. It's like all of these forces that he's lost and the sacrifices that had to be made to make this happen. He's like, is this going to be worth it? Is something going to transpire out of this? Is this going to even make a difference?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure also like the time like Yarrick got back to Armageddon, like landed and then got the message out was like had to have been less than like a few days.
I think that the time that he landed on Armageddon and made his way to Death Mire was within 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's a wild 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then he has to go and wait weeks after that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially like with it just being like dropped into the action, the literal 24 hours just being, front to back, just packed in the nothingness, just within, Death Mire, waiting and waiting and waiting.
Now, at the time of this recording, we do know that a White Dwarf magazine is going to come out and kind of fill in the gaps of those weeks and tell us what has happened between Yarrick sending the message and the Space Marines landing on the planet.
It's just him playing chess with Croyle.
What took you guys so long?
Croyle's like, thank God, he's beaten me at Monopoly 17 times. Like, can we do something else?
I'm pretty sure he has extra Monopoly money in his cap.
Yeah, he's hiding it in his within his claw.
He always wants to play the banker for some reason.
Is there anything we want to say before we end this episode?
We have a lot of stuff to cover coming up.
Yes, we do.
We have a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so definitely stay tuned, and this several chapters. We've got it broken down into sections, and we're covering a lot. So if you all have questions, or if there's something you would like us to, provide more clarification on, or something we grazed over that you thought might be more important to the story that, we're trying to get out there, please let us know. Reach out to us, ask questions. We'd love to hear from you and just be able to help everyone get on the same page.
Yeah, hit up that email. Find us on Discord, YouTube, message us, Instagram.
If you haven't already, check out the shorts.
Yes. We've been
please check out the shorts if you haven't.
They're really good behind the scenes.
Yes.
I still like the one I go back to is the mobile home.
Because you can really hear in my voice, like, it catches me off guard and I realize what I'm saying. And just the idea pops in. It's so funny. And how Alex has been able to edit it is so good. Well, this has been our episode over the race to Hive Death Mire. We're going to continue next week with the Fourth War for Armageddon as we go through the laundry list of Space Marine chapters that have answered the call to defend Armageddon. As always, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify, Instagram, Discord, and now on TikTok to see our shorts. And if you would like to request anything for us to research or have any questions for us, email us at olddaysoflore@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Days of Lore.
Bye-bye.
Bye.